Hey y'all, I wanted to share some, they're not secrets, but something you need to know if you are finishing Damascus. Now this is a chef's knife I made. It's a twisted W pattern, and you can see that you can't see the pattern right now. Let me tell you where I've taken it so far. I've got all my finish grinding done. I've taken it to 65 micron, and it's almost sharp. The edge is probably 2 thousandths thick, so it's almost sharp. Now, here's something very important for you to know. As I'm doing this, I'm going to show you exactly what I do. Now, here's the problem. If you don't have a vehicle, you can't ask directions on how to get somewhere, because you can't drive, you don't have a vehicle, you can't get there. So pay attention, and I'm going to show you. So when you are able to do this, you'll have the information. If you're already doing it, great. If you're not doing it and you're asking questions about what grit stone I used or what grit paper I used, go back and watch it again, because I'm going to give you that information. And my point in that is idealistic making is just doing it all in your mind and reading a lot of books, and that's great. But I'm encouraging you to start, to get doing it, get busy doing this, get busy making stuff, and enjoy the process. If you don't have hands-on, you're not going to learn anything. But you can be entertained by this. I'm just trying to have fun. I want to share the information with you. I want to entertain you a bit, and I'll probably sit here and philosophize the whole time I'm doing this. So this is about an 8-inch blade. This is just a piece of wood. It doesn't matter what kind of wood it is. And I've got it clamped in my vise here. I've got a piece of masking tape on it. I've got a clamp somewhere. Man, I had a better clamp. Yeah, we won't find that. So I got a C clamp here. And I may or may not need a little wedge. So let me show you what I'm going to do to set up. Now you're able to see on top of this? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the C-clamp needs to be big enough to grab the piece of wood. This is a crusty one. You know, it's kind of funny. If the shop's clean, I'm complaining about not being able to find stuff. If the shop's dirty, I'm complaining that it's dirty. Those are wrong. Both of those are wrong. Don't do that. All right. Ta-da! Okay, we got that. Taking the knife, I'm placing it on this piece of wood here on this board so that I'm not going to accidentally get stabbed. Now, it's possible for me to get cut, and what I recommend is be very careful and don't get cut. I don't know how to explain it any other way. You can make a board that is shaped like, you know, like imagine this knife blade being double-sided, so you have a right side, left side, and you have it on your board. You could make one of those. That's a great idea. I just don't have one. Every time I do make one, it seems like they disappear. So now I'm just going to tighten this down. I'm like getting, certain songs are good to get stuck in your head. All right, that ain't going nowhere. Solid. 65 micron. Look that up and see what grit that is. It's pretty fine. It's finer than 200, but not as fine as 400. And I could go finer if I want to, but it's a nice, clean, even finish. And I'm ready to start sanding. I've got a couple different things here I'm going to show you. First and foremost, this is my favorite. This is a auto body roll. This is from 3M. It's 220 grit. This is what I'm going to start with. I'm going to go kind of cross-hatched. This is 400 from Rhino Wet. And you can use, if you can get this in 400, get it. I just don't have any more. That's why I'm not using it. But this is great paper too. That black silicon carbide paper, or gray, I think it's more gray, that stuff doesn't work too good. The silicon carbide abrasives just don't seem to cut as well. I don't know why, but the grit usually falls off of the paper before you get using it. This stuff does not. This stuff does not. This is even better because it's sticky back. I'm also going to use my coarse DMT diamond stone to do any blending, because I'm almost sharp, but I really want to make sure I get rid of any kind of secondary bevels. So this is a part you want to watch real quick. You can use any stone. It doesn't matter what it is. You can use this one. This is another DMT one. It doesn't matter. But again, if you're doing this and you send me a message and you ask me what grit it is, I'll tell you. But you need to be doing it. Just asking questions and not having a stone, not making knives. It's like having to go somewhere and not having a car, but you're asking someone directions. How do I get there? Oh, I don't have a vehicle. I'm just thinking about how I get there. I don't know how to drive either. You know, just solve your problems one problem at a time. Start making stuff. Begin making. All right. That maybe makes no sense. Does it make sense? Okay. Laying it flat, and I'm just going to roll it in. Probably fit a quarter under there. And I'm going to see where this is touching the edge. Now it's touching right on the edge here. I'm going to slide that over just a little bit so I can reach it. So that's touching the edge. That's exactly where I want it to be. It's very shallow. Can you see the angle? Probably not. Again, this is something you're going to need to do in experience to understand it. I can show you a technique, but unless you're doing it, it probably won't make any sense. I don't care if there, I mean, maybe there is something better. I'll find it if there is. I'm always looking for faster, better, smoother, whatever. That side's good. And I've got a little burr setting up there, so I know I'm good on this side. Now the next thing I'm going to do, this is important. Wrong box. So this is a sanding stick I made. I didn't make it actually. Another friend of mine made it. I have some that I made here. I'm just going to show you a couple different types, okay? This hard rubber material is called Poundo board. I think it comes from Weaver leather. But it's something you use when you're doing tooling on leather. I'm just telling you what it is and where you get it. Weaver leather. You glue it to one side of your G10 or micarta, or steel if you want to use steel. It doesn't matter. I think wood's too soft. That's just my take on it. I've used wood before, but I don't care for it. When I'm doing the initial sanding, I'll use the hard side. It seems to cut a little bit faster. When I want to blend in things and do my final finishing, I'll use the rubber side. And I just have, here's one. This is almost an inch wide. This one's pretty skinny. I got a pretty good radius on this side and a sharp corner here. This is an older one. This is one I made a long time ago. I've almost gotten the rubber worn off. What will happen is you'll end up cutting these things, and I'll go back and grind them down on the grinder to make them flat and smooth again, okay? Here's a round one. So you can just do any kind of shape you need to get into nooks and crannies. This knife is flat and sharp. So number one, I want to be careful. I don't want to cut myself. I'm going to start off with the 220, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I got this particular stick here. I like this one. Now, I didn't tear that off. Somebody did, but I like to tear it off like this. So I have a nice clean rip. I'm going to put it on the hard side. My first direction I'm going to finish is on an angle going across, not straight back and forth. And that the reason is when I come back with 400, I'll go a different angle. When I go a finer one, I'll go a different angle. That way I can see my progress and I know that I've got the scratches out, okay? This Damascus is very clean. You're not going to see the pattern until we etch it. So ready? I'll show you what we're going to do. Now, Matt, this is just sanding. I mean, I'm gonna put my fingers over top of the blade, and I kind of bring my elbows in. You don't have to stand up. You can sit down, but I don't like sitting down. So sometimes I don't know. I get pretty tensed up while I'm doing this. So that paper is cutting pretty good. See, it'll clog up before it wears out. And yes, you can use something as a lubricant. I would not use WD-40. Use Windex, use distilled water, use something like that. There's no need to use oil. If you use it, I don't care. I'm not gonna argue with you. It doesn't matter to me. If you have reasons why you use oil, more than likely, if you're using oil, you're just doing it because someone else showed you that. You don't have a logical reason for using oil. So I don't use oil. There's no logical reason for using oil. I'm thinking when I do this, I've done it both ways. I've used water and like a window cleaner, and sometimes it seems like it maybe cuts faster and sometimes it doesn't. This here will also show you how flat your grinding is or how good you actually got out the old grits. So one of the things that I don't like to see when I see someone's knife is scratches from the grinder. These same techniques here work for doing a nice hand finish on a carbon steel knife that's not, you know, a non-Damascus carbon steel. This is carbon steel Damascus, okay, just to be clear. But it'll go pretty quick if you grind it well, if your grinds are good and you actually got all the old scratches out. So it's going pretty quick. I'm almost done with the 220, believe it or not. And what I'm talking about here is this way. First person that showed me how to hand finish, I was watching a demonstration, and it was done by Don Fogg, who, in my opinion, was one of the best bladesmiths ever to be. He figured out a lot of really neat techniques, invented W pattern Damascus, and he shared it with people. And he was very generous with his time and thoughts about what he discovered. And one of the first master bladesmiths I met, him and Steve Schwarzer. So I'm blending all that in. The heel on my knives is a little thicker, so I do that because I have opened cans and coconuts with them. I'm not recommending you do that, but I have a tendency to leave them thicker right there. Also, don't care for doing plunge grinds on a chef's knife. I like the way they look on a hunting knife or a chopper or something, but I don't care for them on a chef's knife. It's so thin. I don't feel like it's part of the knife. I think I'd rather have the smooth. I just have one nice smooth little arc. Starts right where the handle material is. And we're going to clean that line up too. Still using the hard side. I'm going to come in here, show you where it is. I can make it a little more crispy maybe, but the knife is very thin. It's probably 0.100 thick, and it tapers over 8 inches. This is an 8-inch long blade. You can make your knives how you want to. There are some guidelines. There's some things that work really well, but a lot of these things are style. Like someone might argue with you that the chef's knife needs a plunge line, and I argue that that's just style. And if you like that, then do it. I don't care for them on chef's knives. I like to make integral chef's knives the most. Most of my kitchen knives are integrals, and they basically have one big plunge where you see the isolation from the bolster to the blade, and there's no. I think when people do integrals and there's a plunge and then there's a secondary grind in bevel, the flow, it knocks the flow off. Now I'm on the rubber side now, okay? So I got this little radius I want to clean. Again, the best way to learn this and understand what I'm really doing is watch what I'm doing here, but then do it. So if you're asking me a lot of questions and you're not doing this, then you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to be able to help yourself. So if you're doing it, ask me questions, I'll help. But if you're not doing it, don't waste your time. Get doing it. Get busy doing something. Make something. Make one out of wood. It's hard. Here's my 400 grit. Shouldn't take any more than that. And I'm going to use, this is not my favorite one. This is a little too strong. I really like the cheap Elmer's glue one because it's just sticky enough. This is a little like too sticky. All right, let it dry. Don't use it instantly. In the meantime, we'll flip this over real quick and I can show you something. So we're getting all this off. Here's another thing you want to do when you're doing a chef's knife. Break this corner here, because when you're using this knife a lot, if this is sharp, it becomes uncomfortable, especially here on your hand, this part of your hand. So you want to, I like to radius these things essentially. By the time I'm getting here, I'm going to start working this spine and breaking that sharp corner off of there and make somewhat of a radius, so that when I'm holding this in a pinch grip like this, it's basically how I'm holding the knife, that piece isn't going to cut me or wear me out or aggravate me. Also, another thing you can do, the tip gets real thin. I mean, you can, I mean, it's super thin. I like to put a little radius here also, because it makes more surface area. So take that very thin tip and make it a little stiffer. Okay, let's get back at it. Okay, go here, something I want to do. So I want to hit the flats also, because this part will be exposed. The rest of it will be underneath the handle, but right up here it'll be exposed, so I want that to be nice and clean. I'm using the hard side. Every time it starts feeling like it's not cutting, get new paper. Don't get cut. All right, nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go back over here, rubber side now. I'm gonna clean up in my little, somewhat of a radius. I don't know if you can see it, it's very shallow. I don't need it to stay crispy or anything either. I don't really care about that on a chef's knife. I like the chef's knife to be smooth and nice finish and cut food, especially onions. You cut onion and not break those little cells, but cut through them, won't make you cry. Probably said that before 40 times. I just like to listen to books on tape while I'm doing this. Not books on tape. Nobody even knows what a tape is. Audio books. I used to go to the library and get them, and that was a lot of fun. I probably went through they don't have them on tape anymore, so you can just download them. Maybe we'll get Audible as a sponsor eventually, and we'll say this episode brought to you by Audible. Listening to The Lord of the Rings right now. I used to read it all the time, probably once a year when I was in high school, and really loved it. And then I got some version, it had several characters doing the voices, different people doing the voices, but it was abridged, so they cut out big portions of it were not in there. And I'm gonna switch back to the hard side here. But I can't remember the guy's name, English fellow, but he's doing a great job, and it's unabridged, so it's really cool to go back and hear a lot of the things that I missed. And if all you watched was the movie, you are missing out. So I highly recommend listening to stuff while you're working. Yeah, they're coming out nice. I got some scratches right in here, almost out. Doesn't help when you throw this junk on top of the sticky paper, because guess what, it sticks. And if you drop it on the ground, it's always going to go peanut butter side down, just like I did just there. All right, it's too sticky. Get that middle stuff out. Now I'm kind of starting to see the pattern here. What will happen is one of these layers is a little more wear resistant than the other one. And I think I made this Twisted W out of 80 CRV2 and 15 and 20. So the 15 and 20 is wearing away faster right now. But when we start etching, the 80 CRV2 will eat away faster. The 15 and 20 doesn't go away because it has a real high nickel content. And it resists the etch. And that's the silvery, shiny stuff. I think I got all those out pretty much. All right, this is done. This is done now. We're going to switch to 600, and once we go there, then we start to etch. Okay, 600. It's rhino wet. One thing it's important to note, these lines don't need to be perfect, okay? This one I'm gonna make straight. When you're doing a hand rub finish on a carbon steel knife, not a Damascus carbon steel, but a regular carbon steel, you want the lines as you finish to be perfectly straight and even. Now when we're doing Damascus, it doesn't really matter, okay? So I'm gonna start with the hard side, and I'm gonna do the flat area first. It'll go quicker. The finer you go, the quicker it goes. Now you can go as fine as you want. I got another knife maker I know. He makes beautiful, beautiful knives, and he will sand these things till they're nearly mirror polished before he etches. I don't think that's necessary, but it's a preference. You know, you do what works for you, and that makes more sense. Okay, 600. That went fast. Now I'm gonna do the blade. Now I'm going straight. I've got 400, 200 going one way, 400 going the other way, 600 is going straight. I got to put my name on it too. So that's a lot of you were asking about, how do I put my mark on there? I can tell you the story of how I started putting my name on there. So my knives that I made back in the 80s and 90s, I just put my initial on it. It was a rune, actually. It was a J rune from Lord of the Rings. And I would engrave that on the knife with a Dremel tool, which you can hear Curtis grinding away on something in the background. Maybe we can isolate that out of the video. Don't screw up and hit the tip. The tip is so thin and fine, if you're going too hard at it and you hit it, you can damage it, bend it, break it, whatever. It's really thin and fine. It is very flexible, but not so flexible if you hit it with a hard piece of micarta or G10. It doesn't like that very much. All right. All right. Everything looks pretty good here. We'll switch over to the rubber and blend it all in. It's going to look pretty nice. Okay. That's it for this side. Now I'll do the other side the same exact way. So you can see that. Now if you're doing a hand rub finish, I usually don't go past 600. I think it's perfectly acceptable, especially when you do it nice and even. If it's a nice even finish, 600 is beautiful, 400 is beautiful. Even 220 looks great if it's even. So that's a nice even finish. Now this is ready for me to etch. So I'm gonna do the other side the same exact way. You don't really need me to show you that, and then we'll be etching, okay? Okay, so I have sanded this all the way to 600. Now what I'm showing you is just one of the techniques that I use. You can see both cameras, camera 1, camera 2. And I'm ready to put my name on here. I've had a lot of requests on how do I put my name on. Originally, I'd stamp Night on my knives when I first started forging blades. Before that, I'd engrave with a Dremel tool. It wasn't that great, but I'd put a rune on there of a J. And then some of them that are even older have a J with the sun around it. So, and then when I got my journeyman smith rating, I put Night JS just for a limited time. I maybe only marked about 100 knives like that, and then I quit marking them. I just put my name on there, Night, and then when I got my Mastersmith, I marked maybe 50 or 60, and then I just went back to putting Night on them. And then I changed my mark in 2017 to a J, like you're gonna see right now. And the reason I did that was because I liked the way it looked. And I could mark it on there anyway, and it still wasn't going to be crooked. That's the main reason. But I like the way it looked. So it's my new mark. I have some marks that have a JK with a gear on them. There are very few knives that I actually made forged myself that have that mark. I was trying to determine what I wanted to do with it. So primarily you'll see that mark on the Winkler knives. I have another mark. It's a JK with, it says elements for night elements. And I have a couple different ones. So it determines the different kinds of knives. So this one will just have the JK. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but this is a twisted W Damascus. I know you can't see the pattern because I make really clean Damascus. Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to take my stencil. I'm going to put it where I want it on the knife, which is going to be right here. And I'm going to get some good masking tape. This is pretty good stuff right here. And I'm going to take this down. Boop. Surface is clean, surface is clean. This is an electrochemical etch. I'm going to put it on etch. I'm going to turn it on, put it on about 7.5. Get the electrolyte, which is basically salt water. Put that on there like that. Make sure I have the I'm going to hook this red wire up. Now, I will put my name on there. So I just go as deep. I like it to look like I stamped it in, so I go deep enough. I just go as deep as I need to go. And I do this before I start etching. Oh no, I already screwed up here. I'll show you where that is in a minute. We're going to probably have to grind that back out. Doggone it. Right here. I'll show you. Alright, now let's just wipe this off a little bit, clean it up, see what we got going on. Clean that. Now yes, see I screwed up right there, and it is, damn it, deep. So this stuff will basically vaporize steel, and that is something you have to remember. If you touch the blade with it, it will put a line there, and I put a line right there, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to have to get that out. But before I do that, let's go a little deeper with the mark. Okay. So pretty much I'm just going to say, it's dissolving, it's just vaporizing the steel. You can feel it like a little buzz. Gzzz. Sound effects, because you can't hear them, so I'll do the sound effects. Beep, boop, 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 beep. Doop, 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 doop. Bzzz. Alright, probably deep enough. Now once you move that stencil, I can feel it with my fingernail, so that means it's deep enough. Now I'm going to pull it off. And I'll show you where I screwed up. This glass cleaner you can use to kill the salt water, so it won't rust anymore. Or you can use the Neutralite. I'll just spray it off with this because it's right there. And I got to get back to making this right again, because I don't want to, if I start etching, I've got a microphone in my pocket. If I start etching, can you see what I'm doing? That'll just etch deeper and deeper, so I really want to get that out. And I feel stupid that I put it in there, but.
So that camera over your shoulder is going to be getting all the detail too. And it's going to be focused down at the table.
So we got to fix this. See that? That's my fault.
We need to go down the table.
I'm just going to go over here and fix it.
Rolling on that one.
Alright, so this is where I screwed up, and I can feel it with my fingernail. Not as deep as that is, but I definitely want to get it out. So I had this nice 600 grit finish, which I got to go back and destroy. I knew better too. I'd cut that stencil shorter, and I knew that was a dumb idea, but I did it anyway. Nope, it's there. No, it's still there. Still there. It's like a 36 grit scratch that I etched in. Okay, it's gone. Okay, now we'll go back to 400. That's not 400. That's 600. Okay, back to 400. Now I got 400 on there, so. Sometimes when you're making a knife, you can be your own worst enemy, like I just was. It's all right. I never made any perfect knives. I just make them as best as I can. That's why I keep doing it. You know, it's like trying to make a perfect one, but I can't seem to pull it off. I always find something I don't like, so I keep going at it. That's just the way you do it. So you know what happens if you win the lottery, right? You just keep making knives till the money runs out. I always think it's funny when people say, how do I make money making knives? I'm like, I don't know, but if you figure that out, I hope you will share it with me. I know how to have fun making knives. I did figure out how to make a living making knives, but now making money, that's a whole nother ball game there. That has eluded me. I feel like I'm always on the cusp of it. Make knives because you love doing it. Don't make knives because you think there's some kind of financial gain to be had. If you love doing it, you'll do good at it. Yeah, that was so weird. I really wish I hadn't have done that. But we're about to be back where we were. So one little screw up. Our etch is nice and clean. You can see that, I guess. Shake the whole building. Okay. 600, good. I want to switch to something else already. Make sure I wasn't screwing up doubly. So I'll just clean this side back up. And then we'll be ready for the etching. Clean that side. Alright. Clean it again. Alright, one other little spot I'm going to clean. Now, I don't worry about etching this all the way up to here. Sometimes the pattern is cool and sometimes it's blah. I really just want to make sure I sand this top part. That's the only part I really care about. So we're going to do that real quick. I got leather in my vise right here. Tighten it real tight. If you don't, it will pop out. Go back to this. Try to smooth this top part off a little bit. From here, from that little peak back, what's the peak there? Just style, ain't no real reason I like it. I don't put it on all of them, but it was already on this one, and I started making this knife a few months back. I just had an opportunity to finish it so I could show you. Okay, almost done. So here. Radiusing this makes, you see how thin it is, gives the tip a little bit more strength because it increases the surface area. And more surface area, the stiffer it can be. And that thing is super thin right now. Okay. I'm just going to rinse it off, and then we're going to etch. All right.
Camera 2.
Okay.
But are you ready?
Just got to check this and see how it's looking, okay?
Ask the camera to be ready.
Yeah, all right. We're going to let it sit in here for a little bit before we pull out. All right, let's give that a few minutes. Ready for action. All right, we're gonna pull this one up. Zip, zip, and have a look. Ooh, looking good. I'm liking that. Nice, nice, nice. All right, so what I wanna do next is I'm gonna hit it with 1200, okay? So that's deep enough. Let's clean this crud off, and then just gonna hit it with 1200. Hang tight. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll wash this off real quick. Okay, so what I've done, I started my etch. I've got a nice clean etch. I got some topography. Now what I want to do is go to a 1200 and clean the whole thing off with 1200. And you can start seeing the layers. The higher layer is the 15 and 20. That's the shinier stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up, and then we're going to go to 2500, and you can see how bold the name is in there, and I got that other little bad scratch out. So it's getting nice. I'm starting to like it now. I don't want to go too crazy deep with Damascus on a chef's knife, but I have noticed that it doesn't really matter. It looks cool. Food doesn't get into cracks. There's no cracks. There's no little nooks and crannies, even though it looks like it. It's just so shallow that it doesn't really matter. Get some bling going on in there. I like it when they're blingy. That looks good. Let's flip it over to the other side. I've done twist patterns. They were so fine, you couldn't see it almost. Like sometimes you can make patterns that are almost too fine to look at, if that makes sense. And I'm not crazy about them. I like bolder patterns. I have made, doing mosaics, what I call quantum Damascus. Basically it's like patterns within patterns within patterns. And I think the problem with that is it's too busy and it's too difficult to look at. So it's like a happy medium. I like what I like in steel. That's duh, right? No brainer. But I actually only make what I like. So I want to just get it all clean, and I can see it's all shiny. Then I know that this has done its job. That's about as far as I need to go. My goal here is really to hit the top, make it shiny. Now, I'm going to clean that off. Oh yeah, that little piece on the top, I forgot about it. And usually, like I suspect, the pattern is not enough surface area to really see it, so I don't worry myself too much about the spine. Unless it's a crazy pattern. All right, now I'm gonna wash it off and we're gonna etch some more. I've got this piece of hard foam. This is the same kind of foam that you use in a Kydex press. It's just a medium density foam. I've got 2500 grit. Now I'm gonna go underneath the sink and wash the oxide off and also rub it with this, and it should look awesome. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm just gonna wash some of this oxide off. That way it doesn't clog my sandpaper up. And you'll see it's starting to look cool already. And what I'm doing with the 2500 is really I'm hitting the high spots, and they're gonna get a little shinier. And then the low spots are gonna get darker. And the goal is for the low spots to be as dark as possible and the high spots to be as shiny as possible. You know what that does? it looks cool. That's what it does. The whole point of making the Damascus is because it's beautiful. I enjoy making it. It makes for a very noteworthy blade, especially if you're prepping food in your own home kitchen and having a good time with it. All your friends will be like, oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. Oh my goodness, look how thin it slices a tomato. I just think making knives for food prep it's a challenge because they must work. They have to be very fine and thin. They have to have the right edge geometry. All right, so now I've got 2500. It's wrapped up on here, and I'm just gonna sand all this off. And you can start seeing how nice it's gonna be looking. Ooh, that's pretty. So we're gonna go a little deeper with the etch, and then we're gonna stop. I just wanna go a little further. And then that's it. I just wanna get a nice deep etch, and I wanna get the background really dark. Now this is really just one way. I kind of change the way I do it all the time. As soon as I find another way, I'll use that way. And like I said, this is just one way. This is the current method that I'm playing with. I'm sharing it with you. Technically, I'm gonna say it's still in its experimental stage, but it works good. I get a nice etch and I'm happy with it, and that's the key. I've done a lot of Damascus before, done a lot of etches that very disappointing, and I'm getting better and better results as I keep playing with ideas. Sometimes the ideas absolutely ruin the knife, and those are the ones that I've already done for you, so you don't have to do that. This is a good starting place. So just clean all those oxides off. I'm going to rinse it all out, make sure I got everything out of there. Some really cool images in this thing if you look close, but it's a nice bold pattern, which is good. Alright, so we're going to go one more, just a little bit more to get really just a dark background, and that'll be it. Alright. So I got my last etch here. I'm just finishing it off with the 2500 grit paper. It's kind of worn out paper. I got the rubber side here, so it's pretty tight. I'm just really hitting the top. I'm not hitting the, it's not touching the bottom layer anymore. So it gives it a little bit of a sheen. Now the truth is, these start looking really good when you use them. So the more patina that builds on them, I think the better that they look. Of course, you can't sell a chef's knife with patina on it like that because people go, oh, somebody used it. But I really like to see that. So when someone gets one of my knives, they start sharing the images of cutting a brisket or onions or anything, pumpkin. I like that. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps. There are many ways to finish. This is just currently the way I'm finishing. Hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment, give a thumbs up, and have a great day.